Fun with failure.
Hello and welcome once again. I got some TIFUs that I thought was funny that I would love to read to you. We've got stories from peeing on a cat to thinking you're a bat. So let's get started. Here we go. This actually happened today. The season for riding has arrived, and I was more than ecstatic to hop on my motorcycle. I had to work, but I was still amped to take the bike through the back roads that I used to get to my job. As I approached the workplace, high on the feeling of the wind and the smell of the world passing me by at 57 miles per hour, I suddenly thought about my coworker seeing me show up on my bike. My helmet has a mirrored visor, so you cannot see into the helmet. My job is fairly new, so no one has seen me on my bike or in my gear. I was excited to confuse my cohorts with all my stuff on as I walked into the kitchen. Haha, attention! As I walked into the work with my helmet, gloves, armored jacket, and backpack, I slowly turned my head toward the coworkers I passed. I got all the stares and head turns I wanted. Once I got to the time clock, I started to remove my gear. As I released the strap from my chin and took off the helmet, 3 armed park rangers yelled at me to put my hands up and face the wall. Confused, I obey, and they approach me slowly. My manager and district manager turned the corner and immediately asked what the F is going on. Apparently, someone said that a terrorist-looking guy in body armor entered the building from the back. Nearby rangers got the call on a radio and responded with impressive haste. After some explaining and vouching from my boss, weapons were lowered and my genitals returned to their rightful position. I'm no longer allowed to wear my gear into the building, and I now know that one of the armed rangers, they get really shaky when they draw a weapon. So, that's comforting. But I didn't get shot to death. Go Tuesday! This happened last Christmas. I needed to do my Christmas shopping, and I figured, why not eat a special cookie right before this? It will make the lines a bit more bearable. I thought this was a great idea, so I ate the cookie, hopped on the bus, and was at the mall in no time. All is well so far, and it starts to hit me just about 30 minutes after I get there. I get my mom a nice bathrobe, my brother a sick Star Wars poster, and now all I need to do is get my dad a gift. I was thinking, and then it hit me. He could use a Bluetooth earpiece to make calls. This was a great idea, as he was constantly on the phone talking to clients, and I figured it would be nice if he didn't have to hold the phone up to his ear the whole time. I walked into the store. I honestly can't remember the name of it, and my baked mind was looking for any sort of Bluetooth-looking earpiece. I found one, grabbed it, and bought it. There. My Christmas shopping is done. I get home, mindlessly wrap the gifts, and I am so excited to give everyone their presents. Christmas morning rolls around, and I give my brother the poster. He loves it. I gave my mom the fluffy bathrobe. She loves it. Then I gave my dad the supposed Bluetooth earpiece. He lets out a nervous laugh and then sets it to the side. I didn't think much of it at the time, because my dad has never been one to love receiving presents, so I just brushed it off. Fast forward a week or two, and I've noticed he's still making calls and holding the phone up to his ear. I was a bit bummed out that he wasn't using my gift, but it's about the thought, right? In this case, I hope he didn't feel that it was just all about the thought, and here's why. Fast forward 6 months later to yesterday, and my dad tells me to retrieve something from the drawer next to his bed. I retrieve it, and guess what else is in there? It's the Bluetooth earpiece. But then it hit me. This was not a Bluetooth earpiece to make calls from a phone. It was a mother flippin' hearing aid. I got my 57-year-old dad a hearing aid for Christmas. Kids, don't get high and go shopping. My recent dentist trip reminded me of a little high school escapade. Many years ago, I was in class when there was a fire drill. Proper procedure meant that we were to wait next to the parking lot, which was a raised bank of packed dirt with a large square log to keep the cars from rolling down the embankment. As I walked out of class, I decided I was going to be cool by running up the hill and jumping over the log. In retrospect, I'm not sure why I thought it would make me cool. Maybe because I was disobeying authority but not standing with the rest of the kids? I take off running, but since I'm an out-of-shape kid, I don't quite clear the log and trip, landing face first on the nearest car's bumper. All the kids are laughing at my glorious fall, except for one, who just so happened to be the girl I had a crush on. She comes to check on me, asking if I'm okay, to which I groggily responded that I think I lost a tooth. It turns out I hadn't landed face first on the bumper, but tooth first. I had snapped my front tooth cleanly off. The next few minutes was a blur, scrambling for my tooth in the dirt, visiting the clinic, and someone practically superglued it back into my head. The crack wound up being nearly invisible, so I only got in trouble for being an idiot. Just recently, my dentist tells me that my tooth is essentially dead, and I need to replace it. Rest in peace, wallet. This happened like 2 hours ago. I was walking my corgis and my 1-year-old, along with Boise, Idaho's beautiful greenbelt system, which runs miles and miles along the river. The river is the highest level it has been in history right now, so it's fun to see the crazy flooding and flow. So, the fire. In between the golf course, the river greenbelt system, and the small riparian conservation area, there's a large patch of foxtails, cheatgrass, and currently the shed of the cottonwoods. Now, I'm going to tell you about cottonwoods. The fluffy white crap that accumulates along the path basically covers small patches literally all over town. The other day, it literally looked like it was snowing in 80-degree weather. Cottonwoods are beautiful and amazing trees, but that white crap is flammable as frack. So, as I'm on my stroll, I have my 2 corgis, and my buddy has the little guy in front of me. I don't want to get smoke on the kid. This is where it goes south. I light the prime time in my corgi Pippa. I named it after Pippa Middleton because she has a cute butt. It was all the media was talking about during the royal wedding, and we had this puppy. If you've ever seen a little corgi Momo, you know they have cute little furry butts. But I digress. The cig lights, the dog pulls, the cig drops, the cottonwood catches the spark. Frack. It spreads about 10 square feet in 3 seconds. I throw my water on it. It spreads to 30 to 50 square feet. My buddy gets the dogs and babies safe and away. I dig dirt like a monster and start on the side. I stomp the fire's edge. I was wearing cacos. My leg hair is now gone, and my feet are approaching the serious burn stage. Not to mention the smoke. But I ride on dirt on fire, stomp the fire. It's now about 1,200 square feet. I'm winning the Western Front, and then D-Day happens. 8 to 10 people show up one at a time, and we create a border. The dirt and the stomping is now creating a dent in the fire's aggressive spread. It reaches an area I'd say roughly 2,000 square feet. Finally, my amazing community throw down and we emerge victorious. I am now sweat and smoke soaked. My feet are burned and forget about leg hair. The fire department shows up and tells me, "It's all good. We will check for hot spots. Have a good day." I can't believe that I got out of this scot-free. That was a very, very stressful situation. Another resident accidentally started a fire in our foothills. He's doing time. Fines of hundreds of thousands of dollars as well. That was my motivation to fight like a madman, and we came off victorious, regardless of having burns and no leg hair. This just happened, but here's some backstory. On Mother's Day, we went to my brother's place up in the mountains, and his dogs and ours went running through the woods. Later, I pointed out a bug crawling across the floor. "Oh, gross! A tick," my nephew says, before smashing it into oblivion. Yeah, you might want to check your dog when you get home. They're likely the ones that brought them in. We get home and scour our girls for ticks, because one of those little jerks is the last thing we want. But dang it, the dogs have a lot of fur. How the heck am I supposed to find one, even if it's there? So, we called it good, and figured if one showed up, we'll notice. Fast forward to today. As we were getting in bed for the night, I noticed she was licking a spot just inside her hind leg. Also, she seemed a little bit more lethargic than usual lately. I thought, maybe we should do another tick check, just in case. Our room is kinda dark, so I turned on the flashlight on my phone and have her roll over so I can check the spot she was licking. Sure enough, I see the little black fracker attached to her belly. Frack! I ran into the bathroom and grabbed the tweezers. I'll go back to her, hold her down, and try as I might to pinch that biatch off. Oh crap, it's embedded deep! And my girl is yelling and crying and wiggling like crazy. This stinks! So, I get her up in bed and turn on the overhead light so I can see it better. That's when I noticed another tick. Frack, and another, and another. They were all lined up. That's when I realized they weren't ticks. They were her nipples. Frack. I was trying to de-tick my dog and almost de-nippled her. Good thing dogs are forgiving, right? Sorry, girl. To clarify, her nipples are fine, albeit mildly tweaked. Also, I forgot to address the lethargy comment. She's getting older, and my wife and I started running outside again for the summer. I was just being a little cautious. Maybe a bit too much so. And yes, I know, I'm stupid. This happened some 15 years ago. 8-year-old little me used to spend hours in front of the TV watching my favorite show, Animal Planet. This particular weekend, there had been a show on about bats. An important key fact here is that Animal Planet is in English. I'm Swedish, and my subtitle reading skills had not quite developed to perfection yet. However, I grasped most of what they said, and thought it was so cool that the bats could bleep 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 and then avoid the obstacles. This had to be tested, because obviously, if the little bats could do it, so could I, right? During recess, I closed my eyes and confidently started walking. I knew the beeps were supposed to be high frequency, so I made my voice as squeaky as possible and beeped my way across the schoolyard. I saw no fault in my plan, and an hour or so later, I was at the doctor's with my dad, sewing my lip together, since I walked smack into the wall. My front teeth, they pierced my lower lip. I was so embarrassed that I walked into a wall that I kept quiet for years. My not so convincing story at the time was that I slipped, and there just happened to be a rock laying there. And no, I didn't have time to catch myself with my hands. 8-year-old me was neither language proficient nor a very good liar. People are not bats, kids. As per usual, this was actually yesterday. My cat is somewhat fixated about me using the toilet. Whenever I take a pee, he comes rushing, stands up on his back legs, puts his front paw on the seat, and reaches his head just to watch my fluids hit the surface, excitedly waiting for the scary flush to come, which he is just barely brave enough to stare in the eye. Same goes with number 2, which he stubbornly tries to witness by jumping up on the seat just behind me, just to be chased away the very second that he gets up to avoid the real disaster. He then just sits there, thoroughly examining the toilet paper, where it goes, how, and why. And then the great flush strikes again. Super interesting. However, after a long day of work, I decided to relax a bit with a few beers, a pizza, and some Tinder swapping. After an hour or so, my bladder makes its presence felt, so I take a walk toward the loo, seeing the face of curiosity in my cat in the corner of my eye, stalking my steps. The beer had already taken me past caring, and as I stood up, I realized the pressure is greater than I anticipated. So, with a bit of haste, I unzip my pants, aim, and shoot. Now, I'm a millennial, so I'm all grown up and adapting to the toilet breaks, to the dead time between rounds in video games, making sure I'm always prepared to pwn some noobs at the moment I re-zip, regardless of the respawn time. I pee hard, I pee with force, I pee to win. It's all in slow motion. My wrath is airborne. I feel the tingle on my leg, and I see the head of Inspector McKitty reaching up under my badonkadonk, stretching that little head higher and higher to get a view of the full interior of the toilet. And bam! The beam hits him dead center on the back of the head, but he's still in motion upwards, drenching his neck and upper back in well-concentrated pee. The splash soaks the cat, the room, and me. Suddenly, time no longer moves slowly. Neither does the cat. Obviously, considering this an assault on my behalf, he runs away from me, with fear, into the living room, dripping. The pee-dripping cat in the furniture is bad news, so I ran after him, scaring him even more. He goes up on the sofa, dining table, carpet, and sofa again. As I get desperate to stop this sprinkling of pee, I yell higher and wave my arms more clearly, making it worse. The chase goes into the bedroom. Oh God, not the bed. He goes under the bed for hiding. On the bed, I see my PowerPoint presentation remote with the built-in laser dot. God bless. Here, kitty kitty. The predator sees its prey. It leaps. The uncatchable prey made of photons makes its escape into the restroom. The dripping beast follows into the shower and boom! The cat is locked in behind doors of glass. Finally, time stops. As I look down, I see the sad face of the cat behind the glass door. I see the pee in the entire restroom, the wet trail leading out into the middle of the living room, where, judging by the formation and concentration of drips, most of it was shaken off. Yet, a small trail, initially accompanied by fading paw prints, goes a few laps around the room. I burst into laughter, grab a rag, and start the cleanup. Like most TIFUs, this didn't happen today. It happened quite a few years ago. So, how does this all happen, you may ask? Well, I'd just spent several hours down at the beach in the UK on a sunny day. Yes, we do get them. Anyway, we were flying kites and generally doing things that young people do. Me and my brother were riding home from the beach, and I decided as we were getting back onto the campsite, I'd let my kite out a bit. What's the worst that could happen, right? I should also mention that the handle and the wire were wrapped around the handlebar. My brother, who had his fair share of FUs, said that I shouldn't do that, as I'd only end up hurting myself. My reply was, do I look like I'd let it out that far to cause an issue? And with that, I turned down a different access road to get to the caravan, forgetting that it was the wrong road. Little do I know, the line that the kite is on is slowly unwinding and extending out the back, making the kite go further and further up into the air. I was too focused on the road ahead to notice. Then I looked behind me and see the kite was now spinning in an infinite pattern behind me. I turned my head to hit the brake on the handlebar, but before I could, the kite decided to wrap itself around the guide wire of an awning to another person's caravan. At this point, all I know is what I was told by the caravan owners, and that is that the kite pulled tight, and the wire pulled the handlebar 90 degrees to the right. I went over the handlebars with the wire and handle, cutting my face open as it flew off. I then got up, walked my broken face over to the caravan and asked for help. They said, "Head to your caravan, you'll need some help," handing me some kitchen rolls for my face. I was confused by this, so I went on my way. I got back to the caravan, and I said to my mom and my dad that I had an accident. Mom looks and screams, then passes out. Dad said, "I'd better get you to the hospital." So off we go to the hospital. I found out that I cut so deep I could see the muscle and tendons. Ended up with butterfly stitches for like 2 weeks while it healed. I'm a sales coordinator at a hotel. I dragged myself into work this morning, groggy as heck. About once a week, this old lady calls and checks on all the reservations for her family reunion. It's been about 10 reservations for the past 3 months, except for last week, when a guest booked an extra room with me. Quite unfortunately, this guest's last name was Manson. Do I need to say any more? Has anyone else booked for the family reunion? Not looking at the reservation, just going off of memory, I said, "Yes, Charles Manson called in last week to book another room. You have 11 now." Who? I just realized my mistake. Manson? I furiously clicked around until I found the block. I gave her the correct name. I really hoped that she thought that she heard wrong, because her TV was turned up pretty loud. I should be more careful not to mistake guests for serial killers. I bought an 8-pack of raw pork chops because they were on sale. I brought them home, looked up a recipe for fried pork chops, started prepping the meal, and poured an arbitrary amount of vegetable oil into the tall stainless steel pot. When I was almost done with the prep, I turned on the heat for the pot and went back to finishing the prep. A few minutes later, I had a feeling to turn around and check to see how the oil was. The recipe suggested dropping in breadcrumbs into the oil to test if it was hot enough. It didn't appear to be hot enough, so I continued the prep. Then a few minutes later, I went to check on the oil again and noticed it was smoking. I immediately took the lid off, and literally less than 5 seconds, the whole pot burst into flames. I proceeded to lift the pot off of the hot coils and put it into the cold ones. When I realized the fire wasn't going away, I calmly called my wife, who was in the next room doing yoga. At this point, I picked up the pot and was heading toward the front door. My wife opened the front door, and the flames having risen about 2 or 3 foot tall. I thrust the pot into the front yard. I threw it out. The flames didn't go away, so I grabbed the fire extinguisher, ran back outside, pulled the pin, and then emptied the thing to kill the flame. My adrenaline was so pumping. Needless to say, it was not until the flames were completely gone, we had gone back inside, and I noticed the burns covered my arms, stomach, legs, and feet. The flaming oil had burned through some areas of my clothes as well. It hurt, but it wasn't bad enough to warrant a trip to the hospital. I submerged it in a tub of cold water, soaked for an hour, and then slowly made myself onto the bed, so my wife could cover the burns with gauze. My wife finished the pork chops, though in the oven, and not frying them. They were delicious, but not worth all the nonsense. So, as with many TIFUs, this didn't happen today, but approximately 11 months ago. My wife and I just bought our first house, and we were moving stuff out of our apartment. We tried to get a rental truck, but they would have charged us extra days, since we were going to move over the weekend, and they were closed on Sunday. We decided just to borrow my parents' minivan and move everything ourselves. We had already taken several trips moving bookcases, dressers, and large and unwieldy items. One of the few things that was left was the mattress. Anyone that has moved will understand that they are the worst. You can't ever get a good balance since they keep shifting. They're heavy and still stiff enough that moving them through doorways just stinks. Still, we were determined. We wrestled that thing through the bedroom and apartment doors. We lived in a garden level apartment, so at least we only had to struggle it up half a flight of stairs. We then fought it into the van, pushing both it and the doors until it finally submitted to our will. We drove it to our new house and began the arduous task of hauling it back out of the van and up the stairs to the second floor. At long last, we wrestled it up there and dropped it flat on the floor. Now, at this point, I'm hot, I'm tired, and I'm ready to be done. Here's where the frack up comes in. I think a large majority of people have had the urge to kick things. Usually, it's something small like a shirt you tripped over. Maybe you kicked the tire on your car after changing it. Lots of people have done this, with equal parts frustration and victory. I let that mattress have it, and I kicked it. My left foot struck a blow for justice. Here's why it was a bad idea. I had a lot of force behind that kick. The mattress, however, was already against the wall, and it was heavy, which meant that this force had nowhere to go. My foot turned out to the left, and my leg twisted with it, causing my kneecap to pop out of its regular home, and onto the left side of my leg, until the tendon that holds it there put it back. It was very brief, but certainly enough to make me collapse to the floor in agony. I knew that pain. This would be the second time they have done this. The first time was in high school judo class. I would spend the next several weeks icing my knee and limping around on a cane while reflecting on why Newton's law of motion, especially the second one, are important to know. I had already finished mowing the lawn, and I only had a few small areas left to shape up. One of those areas happened to be a propane tank in the back of the house. No big deal. I quickly brushed over the underside in front. I noticed quite a large anthill a meter or so to the right of the gas tank. I was extra careful to avoid this, however, because I'm not suicidal. Despite this, I was unlucky enough to step in a small hole near the hill, and I proceeded to drive the weed eater right into the front of the hill. I looked down to find dozens of the hell bugs all over my legs, pants, and shirt. I immediately panic and start swatting and swiping at my body. For anyone who doesn't know what Satan ants are, imagine regular ants, except instead of normal ant gizzards, they have the combined abhorrence of every human being to ever grace the sweet earth, morphed into 2 venomous cutlasses taped to the front of their face. I sprinted into the safety of my home and got all the wannabe scorpion marks off of my body. I ended up getting a lot of bites and it hurt like heck. This did happen today, and has just finished now, and they have gone to bed. So, we were watching some sort of mind-numbing show after homework. At dinner, the term irrational fear was said by the brightly covered character from the show. "What's irrational fear, Mom?" said the dry-witted, sarcastic 5-year-old. Now here's where the frack-up happened. I am a firm believer in treating kids like intelligent humans. If they ask a question directly, I will explain directly. This has led to long and intense conversations about religion, morality, and death, appropriate sexuality, i.e. sexual spectrum, how people might feel like a different gender than what they are, who they are attracted to, etc., etc. All age appropriate, of course. And all my kids are well informed, mature, and understanding because of this. Back to the frack up. I decided to teach them the meaning by giving an example of one of my own. Hair. Not like a fear of hordes of wigs chasing me, but single or small multiples of hair being stuck on my hands, being intertwined by my fingers, while my hands are wet. I had to take a break from typing this to stop myself from gagging. As I said, my daughter has a dry wit, and a little bit evil, and is pretty clever. She asked, "So is that why you almost get thick when you clean my hairbrush at the bathtub after bath time?" Again, gagging. I nod and say yes. Yep, some people don't like clowns, some people don't like balloons, and some people are afraid of the dark. It doesn't make much sense, but that's what it means to have an irrational fear. She looks at her brother and grins. Doesn't move, doesn't plan verbally, just grins. My kids are Irish twins, so I swear they have some sort of telepathy and know something was happening. They go to the playroom, and I start the post-dinner cleanup. Then I feel something rubbing on the back of my leg. I think, ugh, a dust biter, and quickly brush my leg. Nope. My hands make contact with this ball of tangled, multi-shaped kid hair from her mother flippin' brush. I let out a squeal that Hades himself heard, and I ran. They gave chase for 15 minutes with the clumps of hair. My daughter with a dried tumbleweed of ugh, and my son with a slimy ball of yuck. Yes, he went and wet that hair. Finally, I have the bright idea of picking up the 2 toys and dangling them over the bin, all the while negotiating like a top CIA agent. In the hope of some sort of compromise, I win. Teddy Betty was returned to the owner of the ball of yuck, and Rapunzel was traded off for the ugh owner. They had to put the fear balls in the bin, cause please, I'm not doing that. Also, no stars were put on the chart, and a new column was added called Not Scaring Mommy. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed those stories. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. If you have any funny stories you'd like to share, please send it to me at funwithfailure@gmail.com, and I would love to put your story in a video. I was planning on doing more this week. I've been extremely busy this week, seeing that my wife is gone for 3 weeks. So thank you for your patience, and I will be getting those things out. Till next time, you're gonna fail. Might as well have fun with it.